They mocked my handwritten notes and said, "We don't need dinosaur methods in the cloud age." I smiled, packed my things, and left quietly. Weeks later, a data breach took down their entire operation. The only paper trail left behind was in my drawer. When they opened it, their faces dropped because I'm a quiet guy. I'm not flashy. I don't try to impress anyone. I believe in doing things right, even if it's not the popular way. That's how I lasted over a decade at my job. Until the company decided that the old ways were dead and people like me didn't belong anymore. I worked in Austin, Texas, for a mid-sized cloud infrastructure company. Not a giant like Google, but we had over 200 employees and some big-name clients. Healthcare data, retail chains, even a few government contracts. When I started, we were scrappy. I used to sleep under my desk during rollout weekends. We worked hard and built strong systems. Over the years, I rose up slowly. I became the lead systems analyst. I was the one who caught small problems before they became disasters. I was the one people came to when nobody else could figure out why a sync broke or why data disappeared. I didn't have fancy degrees. But I had something better: experience, instincts, and my notes. I used notebooks. Real ones. Spiral-bound. I dated every page. I recorded every server change, every meeting, every plan. It was slow, sure. But it was solid. It kept me sharp. Nothing slipped through the cracks. People used to say, "Ask him, he'll know," and they'd point at me. Then came Carter. He joined as Director of Innovation, which should have been the first red flag. He was flashy. Spoke fast. Always on his phone. Sneakers worth more than my car. He bragged about his time at a failed crypto startup like it was a badge of honor. Within 6 months, he was CTO. And everything changed. Carter believed in speed over safety. Image over process. He hated anything that looked old school. That included me. In his second week as CTO, he called me into a strategy meeting with a bunch of new hires and junior devs. He was showing off a full cloud transition roadmap. There were no backups, no failovers, no risk analysis. Just words like seamless and real-time sync. I raised a few concerns. He smiled like I was a kindergartner asking about the sun. Then he pointed at my notebook and said, "That's cute. But we don't need dinosaur methods in the cloud age." Everyone laughed. That stuck with me. After that, he made things difficult. Left me out of meetings. Reassigned my tickets. Gave flashy projects to less experienced guys who only knew surface-level concepts. Meanwhile, he pushed all documentation onto Google Drive and ditched our old backup system. It got worse in one team meeting. I was jotting down a server issue Carter had brushed over. A junior guy, Corey, leaned over and said loud enough for the room, "We should get him a typewriter next." More laughter. Carter smirked. "Let him enjoy his fossils. We'll be in the cloud where it's safe." That night, I went home and sat at my kitchen table. I stared at my notebook. My hands were shaking. Not because I was angry. Because I knew what was coming. I handed in my resignation 2 days later. Gave 2 weeks' notice. No drama. No arguments. I didn't need to say much. They already thought I was irrelevant. During my last week, no one asked me for a transition document. No one cared about my notes. Not even Carter. They acted like I'd already been gone for months. So on my last day, I packed up my stuff, shook a few hands, and left. But before I walked out, I slid my last notebook into the drawer of my old desk. It was labeled January, June. It had everything. Not just system configs. I had written down warnings, error trends, breach vulnerability reports that were ignored. A full rollback plan Carter had dismissed. And recovery steps, based on real scenarios I'd handled before. I locked the drawer. Taped the key under the desk. Then I left. 3 weeks later, the company went dark. Saturday night. A junior dev pushed an unverified update to the live environment. No peer review. No rollback. One of the AWS buckets had been left public during testing. The breach was immediate. The ransomware took less than 6 hours to encrypt everything. All their Google Drive files, internal dashboards, source code repos, billing systems, client data, all gone. Locked. Demands were made. No backups. Carter had convinced the board that real-time sync across Google Cloud meant they didn't need the extra cost of physical backups. By Monday, the office was chaos. Clients were furious. One of the government contractors called in an outside auditor. HR was trying to calm people down. But the truth was out, they had no idea how to recover. Not a single person had any idea how to bring back the systems. Then, someone opened my old desk. They found the drawer locked. Vanessa, one of the only smart, decent people still there, thought to check under the desk. She found the key. Inside the drawer was my notebook. Thick. Heavy. Labeled. Flipping through it, she found everything Carter had ignored. The security flaws I warned about. The correct AWS permissions list. Manual recovery paths. Password rotations. IP logs. All handwritten. I didn't know any of this until Vanessa called me. Her voice was shaking. "Did you leave this for us on purpose?" I didn't say anything. She said Carter looked like someone punched him in the stomach when he saw it. He just stood there flipping through it, page after page, like it was a map out of hell. Next thing I know, Carter's calling me. 12 missed calls. I didn't pick up. Then the CEO emailed. Then legal. Then they offered me a temporary consulting role to help rebuild. I didn't say yes. Not right away. But I was already flipping through my backup notebooks at home. I'd seen this coming months ago. I'd written it all down. So after a few more days of silence, they offered me money. A lot of it. Way more than they ever paid me when I worked there. Suddenly I wasn't a dinosaur anymore. I was their last chance. I agreed. But only on my terms. I wouldn't come into the office. I'd work remote. No meetings, no small talk, no Carter. I wanted access to what was left of the systems, and I'd choose my own small team. They agreed to everything. I started going through the wreckage from home. They gave me read-only access at first. That didn't last long. They realized fast that I knew what I was doing. I had them walk through the manual recovery steps from my notes. One line at a time. By week 2, they were begging me to take control of the environment. I said yes, but only if I could pick 2 people from my past to help. Old colleagues. People who did things right and got pushed out when Carter rose up. They said yes again. Carter hadn't been fired yet. He was still clinging to his title, showing up to meetings, trying to act like he was coordinating the recovery. But everyone knew I was running the show now. He just didn't want to admit it. Then something strange happened. Vanessa forwarded me an internal email. It was from Carter. He was trying to shift blame, saying the breach happened because legacy staff left behind unsecured notes that attackers may have accessed. He was trying to pin it on me. I laughed out loud when I read it. The man had no shame. He mocked my notes, ignored all my warnings, and now that those notes were the only thing keeping the company alive, he wanted to use them as the scapegoat. But I didn't respond. Not yet. I kept working. Week 3, we got partial systems back online. We recovered critical data using steps from my notebooks. Old passwords I rotated regularly. Archived settings I wrote down when Carter told me to. Just let the cloud handle it. That's when I found something. While I was checking old logs I'd backed up manually before I left, I noticed something weird. The breach didn't come from outside. It came from an internal IP. A VPN account that was supposed to have been deactivated. The credentials used were for one of Carter's old contractors. A DevOps consultant from overseas. Carter had hired him off the books for a rush project, then ghosted him when he asked for payment. That guy still had access. And it looked like he sold it. I dug deeper. I found emails, forwarded through Carter's private inbox, that gave that contractor access to systems we were supposed to decommission. Those systems still had root privileges. Carter knew. He never cleaned it up. Never reported it. He just moved on, too busy selling his vision and planning his next big demo. And now, that contractor had sold the backdoor to someone else. That's how the breach happened. This wasn't just incompetence. It was negligence. I sent the findings to legal and CC'd the board. 2 hours later, Carter was suspended. Vanessa called again, almost laughing through her shock. He's trying to say you planted something before you left. Let him, I said. I documented everything. They can cross-check the logs. My notes have timestamps. My personal backups have checksums. They did. And it lined up. By the end of that week, Carter was out. Officially. Fired. Escorted from the building. The CEO made a statement to the board and clients, blaming a single point of failure in leadership. But the story wasn't over. Because Carter wasn't done yet. 2 days after his firing, I got a visit. Not a call. An actual visit. I was in my driveway, taking out the trash, when he pulled up in a white Tesla. Window down. Sunglasses on. Like he was still somebody. You set me up, he said, calm at first. I didn't answer. You think you're the hero in this? You think they actually respect you? You're just a tool. You were always a tool. I stepped closer. No, I said. I was the safety net. And you cut it out to impress people who don't even know your name anymore. He laughed. You think they won't toss you out the second you're done? You're nothing but a temporary fix. A leftover. He was angry now. Real angry. Like everything he built had crumbled and he had no one left to blame. He was right about one thing, I was a leftover. But the kind people come back for when they realize they threw out something that mattered. Then he sped off. That was the last time I saw him in person. But it wouldn't be the last time I heard from him. A week after that driveway confrontation, I got an email from an unknown address. Subject line: Hope you kept a copy. The message was short. Thought you should know. They're erasing your notes. Every version. Every backup. Vanessa's being shut out. They want to rewrite history before the audit. No name. No signature. Just that. At first I thought it might have been Carter, trying to stir the pot, make it seem like I was being used again. But the wording didn't sound like him. It was too careful. So I checked. Sure enough, I couldn't access the shared cloud folders they gave me. The server credentials I'd been using were revoked. And the copies of my notes, scanned versions, backups I uploaded to their recovery team, were deleted from the system. Clean sweep. They were cutting me out. I called Vanessa. Her phone rang twice, then went straight to voicemail. I tried again later. Same result. That night, I stayed up until 3 a.m. going through my own physical notebooks. Thank God I never trusted their sync systems. I had copies. All of them. But I started to get a bad feeling in my stomach. They didn't just want me out. They wanted to make it look like I was never there. They wanted to spin the story so it seemed like they rebuilt the systems. That they found the recovery path. And more importantly, they didn't want to admit that everything they were running now was based on what they once mocked and called useless. By the end of the week, it all became clear. Vanessa finally got back to me. She'd been forced into a voluntary leave, pending an internal investigation. They claimed she violated privacy protocols by sharing unauthorized physical documents with someone outside the company. Me. I told her what I found, the deletions, the lockout, the email. She sighed. They're burying it. The board doesn't want investors to know it was your notes that saved them. They're going to rebrand the whole recovery effort as an internal leadership initiative. My chest got tight. Not because of ego. I didn't need credit. But I hated lies. I hated how easily people in charge rewrote the truth when it made them look bad. And now they were going after Vanessa too? The only person who did the right thing when the place was falling apart. That was the final straw. I wasn't going to let this fade quietly. I started printing. Hundreds of pages. Notes. Logs. Emails. Screenshots. The paper trail they tried to erase? I put it back together, stronger this time. I created 2 physical binders and 3 encrypted drives. Then I wrote 1 email. It wasn't to the company. It was to 3 of their largest clients, the ones I used to directly support. One of them, a hospital network, had nearly lost patient records in the breach. The second, a logistics firm, had their operations stalled for 2 weeks because of it. The third? A federal subcontractor bound by compliance laws. I didn't accuse anyone outright. I just laid out the timeline. Attached proof. Documents. Diagrams. Direct quotes. Log timestamps. My full involvement, beginning to end. I let the paper speak for itself. I closed it with this. If your data is safe today, it's not because of cloud sync. It's because of a system you were never told existed. And the people they pushed out. Then I hit send. That same week, one of those clients filed a formal audit request. The company panicked. I know because someone forwarded me a panicked Slack screenshot. One of the execs wrote, "How the hell does he still have everything?" Simple. Because I never trusted them. And now, the clients they lied to were starting to ask questions they couldn't answer. It all came crashing down faster than I expected. That audit? It wasn't just a formality. One of the clients I contacted, the federal subcontractor, was bound by strict government cybersecurity compliance. That meant every data breach, every recovery step, every security failure had to be reported, documented, and verified. If any part of their system had been restored using undocumented tools or unauthorized external help, that's a violation of federal contract terms. Translation? Fines. Lawsuits. Possible blacklisting. I found out what happened through Vanessa. She called me 2 days after the audit team arrived. "They're tearing the place apart," she said. "One of the agents asked for your notes by name." Turns out, the compliance agents had received a copy of my documentation from the client. They compared my handwritten notes with the internal recovery reports the company filed after the breach. The dates didn't match. The steps didn't match. The truth came out. They lied in the official records. They claimed their internal team rebuilt the systems. They left out my role entirely. Worse? They had signed certifications under penalty of perjury. That's when the real trouble began. Week 1 of the audit fallout, the CEO resigned. No press release. Just gone. 3 board members followed him out within 24 hours. The new acting CEO was a lawyer brought in by investors to limit exposure. He didn't try to fix things, he started pointing fingers. Internal Slack messages, emails, phone logs, everything got pulled. They found out the deleted backups were ordered by Carter before he was fired. He had instructed the IT team to wipe all trace of my involvement, including cloud scans of my notebooks. Turns out, Carter wasn't just arrogant, he was paranoid. He'd been trying to destroy anything that proved I had ever been part of the recovery. Week 2, Carter got served. A formal lawsuit. Civil charges from the company for breach of duty. Criminal investigation for tampering with recovery records during a federal data crisis. But that wasn't the end. Vanessa got reinstated. And promoted. Turns out, when they suspended her, she'd secretly recorded a meeting with HR where she was pressured to let the narrative go and agree that Carter's team handled recovery. That recording made its way to a news outlet. It hit TechWorld Weekly on a Monday morning. Headline: Lead analyst's handwritten notes saved company from collapse. Execs tried to erase him. My phone lit up like a Christmas tree. Former coworkers, recruiters, journalists. Even a lawyer offering pro bono help if I wanted to sue. I didn't. I didn't need the money. I had already been paid more than I ever thought I would. But I wanted one more thing. Closure. So I sent one final email. To the board. To the audit team. And to every employee still left at the company. I attached 2 files, a scanned copy of my last notebook, the one I left in the drawer. Every page, every diagram, every line they laughed at. A photo of Carter during his first week as CTO, standing in front of a projector screen that read, "Legacy processes are useless. We're doing things the modern way now." I wrote, "The only legacy that mattered was the one you tried to bury. The next time you laugh at the old way, remember who came back to rebuild what you destroyed." Then I signed off. 1 month later, the company lost its biggest client. The federal contract was pulled. They were blacklisted for 5 years. Their stock dropped by 60%. Carter's LinkedIn disappeared. Last I heard, he tried to launch a new startup and got sued again, for fraud this time. The new CTO? Vanessa. She runs the place like it should have been run years ago. Physical backups. Paper trails. Real training. Documentation no one laughs at anymore. She sent me a handwritten letter, on actual paper. All it said was, "Thank you for not throwing it all away like they did." I left tech. Moved to a quiet town outside Durango, Colorado. I write. I fix old radios. I keep my notebooks in a fireproof box. And every now and then, when I hear people mock something old, something careful, something slow, I smile. Because sometimes the thing they mock is the only thing that's real when everything else burns.